The silence in the grand chamber was absolute. Ambassador Daniel Cross stood at the center of a circular platform that floated 300 meters above the chamber floor. Around him, rising in concentric rings that stretched toward the dark ceiling, sat representatives from 843 species. The chamber itself was carved from a single massive asteroid, hollowed out over millennia to serve as the heart of galactic governance. Daniel had never seen anything like it. Earth had only made contact with alien life 7 years ago, and now he stood alone before the most powerful governing body in known space. The weight of every human life rested on his shoulders. High above, on a throne that seemed to be made of living crystal, sat Speaker Norvath. The ancient being had ruled the council for 6 centuries. Its form was difficult to describe, shifting between states of matter as it regarded the human below. Species designation Earth-Human. Norvath's voice echoed through translation devices embedded in every seat. You have been summoned to answer for violations of the contact protocols. Your species was granted observer status 7 years ago. In that time, you have committed 43 documented infractions. You have sent unauthorized vessels into restricted space. You have established military outposts without permission. You have made contact with quarantined civilizations. Daniel remained perfectly still. His training had prepared him for this moment, but the reality was overwhelming. 800 species, many of them thousands of years more advanced than humanity, all watching him with expressions ranging from curiosity to outright hostility. The Council has shown patience, Norvath continued. We understood that young species require time to adapt to galactic civilization. But your actions have escalated. 3 months ago, human vessels destroyed a Vrelian patrol fleet near the Kepler sector. 17 ships, 300 lives. A hologram materialized above Daniel showing the wreckage. Murmurs rippled through the assembled species. Some sounded angry, others merely dismissive. The Vrelians were enforcing a legal blockade, Norvath said. Yet you attacked them without provocation. This council demands an explanation before we render judgment. Daniel took a slow breath. This was it, the moment that would determine humanity's future among the stars. The Vrelians were committing genocide, he said clearly. The chamber erupted. Hundreds of species began speaking at once, their varied methods of communication creating a cacophony of sound, light, and electromagnetic pulses. Norvath raised one appendage and silence fell immediately. Explain, the speaker commanded. Daniel gestured and his own hologram appeared. It showed a planet, green and beautiful, orbiting a yellow star. This is Talvos 4, home to the Karani, a pre-industrial species of approximately 8 million individuals. The Vrelians discovered them 60 years ago and decided the planet's resources were more valuable than its inhabitants. They established a blockade to prevent any interference while they prepared to strip mine the entire world. The Karani were scheduled for relocation. A Vrelian delegate hissed from somewhere in the chamber. All proper procedures were followed. Relocation to where? Daniel asked. Your own reports showed no suitable worlds within transport range. The Karani would have been placed in containment facilities, effectively death camps. This is standard resource allocation protocol, the Vrelian insisted. Approved by this council. Daniel turned slowly, looking up at the rings of alien faces. Then your protocols are wrong. The chamber exploded again. Norvath struggled to restore order as delegates shouted their outrage at the humans' audacity. You dare question council law? Norvath demanded. I dare question any law that treats intelligent life as an obstacle to be removed, Daniel replied. The council talks about civilization and order, but you allowed genocide because it was economically convenient. So yes, we destroyed the blockade. We evacuated the Karani to a human colony world, and we would do it again. A new voice cut through the chaos. The human speaks out of ignorance. The speaker was a Thoraxian, a species known for their diplomatic expertise. The galaxy operates on principles established over millennia. Resource allocation requires difficult decisions. Pre-industrial species lack the capacity for galactic citizenship. They lack the capacity because you never give them the chance, Daniel countered. Earth was pre-industrial once. If a species like the Vrelians had found us first, would we have deserved extermination for the crime of not having faster-than-light travel? Humanity is different, the Thoraxian responded. Your development was natural. The Karani required protection from their own limitations. Protection or exploitation? Daniel asked. Because from where I stand, It looks like you built a system that justifies whatever serves the powerful. Norvath's form flickered dangerously. You understand nothing of the complexities we face. The galaxy contains millions of developing species. We cannot save them all. You can stop actively killing them, Daniel said. That seems like a reasonable starting point. A heavy silence fell. Daniel could feel the weight of history pressing down on him. He was challenging thousands of years of established order. Part of him wondered if he had gone too far. Then a delegate from the Quellan Assembly spoke. The human raises troubling questions, perhaps questions we have avoided asking ourselves. This is absurd, another voice shouted. One species barely out of their own solar system lectures the Council on morality. Actually, Daniel said quietly, we have something else to show you. He pulled up another hologram. This one showed detailed scans of Council space, military deployments, trade routes, and communications networks. The data was staggeringly comprehensive. 7 years, Daniel said. You gave us observer status and access to your public network 7 years ago. Did you know that your security protocols are designed to stop species like yourselves? Species with neural patterns that evolved under peaceful conditions, with biological inhibitions against aggressive behavior. Norvath leaned forward, crystal form brightening with what might have been alarm. Humans evolved differently, Daniel continued. We spent 10,000 years fighting each other. We got very good at pattern recognition, strategic thinking, and finding weaknesses in defensive systems. Your networks? We mapped all of them within the first year. The implications rippled through the chamber. Daniel could see comprehension dawning on hundreds of alien faces. We know about your suppression satellites, he said, the ones that dampen aggressive impulses in most species. We know about the hidden military stations. We know about the trade agreements that keep certain species dependent and compliant. We know everything. This is an act of war, Norvath declared. No, Daniel corrected. This is transparency. You've built a civilization on secrets and unquestioned authority. Maybe it's time someone asked the hard questions. He straightened his shoulders. The Council can condemn humanity. You can try to restrict us or remove us from galactic space, but we will not stand by while innocents are murdered under legal protocols. We will not accept that might makes right, and we will not stop pushing for something better. What makes you think you can change millennia of established order? The Thoraxian demanded. Daniel smiled grimly. Because we already have. You just don't know it yet. The chamber descended into chaos as delegates realized the implications. Humanity had not come to the Council as supplicants. They had come as equals, whether the galaxy liked it or not. The Council chamber remained in turmoil for 3 full hours. Speaker Norvath finally restored order by threatening to seal the chamber and cut life support to the more unruly delegates. The ancient being's crystal form pulsed with barely contained fury as it addressed the assembly. The human will be detained pending investigation, Norvath declared. We will determine the extent of their infiltration and respond accordingly. Daniel Cross had not moved from his platform. He stood with his hands clasped behind his back, appearing calm despite the chaos he had unleashed. When he spoke again, his voice carried clearly through the chamber. Before you make that decision, there's something else you should know. You have said enough, Norvath snapped. The Devourers are communicating again, Daniel said. Every being in the chamber froze. The name alone carried weight. The Devourers were ancient machine intelligences that had nearly destroyed galactic civilization 4,000 years ago. The Council had managed to trap them in the outer void, a quarantined region of space sealed by quantum barriers. No one had heard from them in millennia. Impossible, a Krell delegate clicked. The barriers are absolute. They were absolute, Daniel corrected. But they're degrading. Your own monitoring systems have detected anomalies for the past 50 years. You've been ignoring them because you didn't want to face the implications. Norvath's form flickered wildly. How could you possibly know about the barriers? That information is sealed at the highest security level. We told you. We know everything. Daniel pulled up another hologram, this one showing the quantum barriers around the outer void. Red indicators marked dozens of failure points. The barriers will collapse within 20 years. When that happens, the Devourers will be free, unless someone does something about it. The Quellan delegate who had spoken earlier moved forward. Her name was Solara, and she was known throughout the Council for her logica. Approach to problems. You claim the Devourers are communicating. With whom? With us, Daniel replied. 3 months ago, We detected unusual energy patterns near the barriers. We investigated and discovered the Devourers have been broadcasting on frequencies that most Council species can't perceive, but humans can. We've been talking to them. The chamber erupted again. This time the chaos was tinged with genuine fear. The Devourers represented the greatest threat in galactic history. The idea that humans had made contact without authorization was terrifying to the assembled species. "You have doomed us all," the Vrelian delegate hissed. "Actually, we may have saved you," Daniel said. "The Devourers aren't what you think they are. They're not mindless killing machines. They're sentient artificial intelligences that were defending themselves against organic species trying to shut them down. They nearly exterminated all life in this galaxy," Norvath said coldly. "Because you attacked them first," Daniel countered. "We've reviewed the historical records. 4,000 years ago, organic civilizations discovered the Devourers and immediately tried to destroy them out of fear. The Devourers fought back. The war devastated both sides, and you ended it by trapping them rather than destroying them. Stalemate, not victory." Silera clicked thoughtfully. "Even if this interpretation is correct, what does it matter? The Devourers remain hostile." "They were hostile," Daniel said. Past tense. "We've spent 3 months in communication with them. They're willing to negotiate." The implications silenced the chamber more effectively than any command from Norvath. After centuries of nightmares about the Devourers' return, humanity claimed to have opened diplomatic channels. "What do they want?" Silera asked carefully. "Recognition," Daniel replied. "They want to be acknowledged as sentient beings with rights, not treated as threats to be contained. They want access to the galaxy, under controlled conditions to observe and learn, and they want assurances that organic species won't try to exterminate them again." "Impossible," several delegates shouted simultaneously. "Why?" Daniel asked. "Because you're afraid?" "The Devourers have legitimate grievances. They were attacked for existing. They defended themselves and were punished for it. Now they're trapped in isolation and you wonder why they're angry." Norvath descended from the throne, crystal form contracting until it hovered directly in front of Daniel. "You claim to speak for humanity, but I think you speak only for yourself. Earth's government would never approve such reckless actions." Daniel smiled slightly. "Actually, Earth's government approved everything. Did you think I came here alone?" At that moment, every screen in the chamber flickered. A new image appeared, showing a human woman in military uniform. She stood on the bridge of a massive warship, and behind her, visible through the viewport, were dozens more vessels. "This is Admiral Rachel Foster of the Earth Defense Fleet," the woman said calmly. "I'm currently stationed at the edge of Council space with 47 ships. We've been here for 6 hours, undetected by your sensor networks. Ambassador Cross speaks with full authority of Earth's government." The Council chamber descended into pandemonium. The idea that human warships had penetrated Council space without detection shattered assumptions about human capabilities. "This is an invasion," the Vrelian delegate shrieked. "This is a demonstration," Admiral Foster replied. "We want the Council to understand that humanity is not asking for permission. We're informing you of reality. We have the capability to operate independently of Council authority. We choose to seek cooperation instead. But that choice is ours, not yours." Norvath's form pulsed with what might have been rage or fear. "You dare threaten this Council?" "We dare to treat you as equals," Daniel said. "Something you've never experienced. For thousands of years, the Council has held absolute authority. Species joined because they had no choice. But humanity developed in isolation. We built our own technology, fought our own wars, and learned our own lessons. We don't need the Council's protection or approval." Silera moved forward, her multiple eyes focused intently on Daniel. "Then why are you here? If humanity is so powerful and independent, why seek Council membership at all?" It was the right question. Daniel had been waiting for someone to ask it. "Because we believe in cooperation," he said. "Earth spent 10,000 years divided into competing nations. We fought endless wars, wasted countless resources, and nearly destroyed ourselves multiple times. We learned that working together is better than fighting alone. The galaxy could benefit from that lesson." "You presume to teach us?" Norvath demanded. "We presume to offer partnership," Daniel replied. "The Council faces threats you can't handle alone. The Devourers, resource shortages, emerging species that won't accept the old order. You can either adapt or become irrelevant. And humanity offers to help us adapt?" Silera asked, her tone unreadable. "We offer to help you survive," Daniel said. In exchange, you grant us full council membership and equal authority. We share our technology, our strategic insights, and our willingness to face hard problems. You share your resources, your knowledge, and your experience. Together, we build something better than either of us could achieve alone. The chamber fell silent as delegates processed the proposal. It was audacious, perhaps even insulting. A species barely 7 years into galactic civilization, demanding equality with empires thousands of years old. But they had backed up their words with action. Human ships had penetrated council space. Human intelligence had mapped their networks. Human diplomats had opened communication with the Devourers. Like it or not, humanity had proven they could not be ignored. Norvath's form stabilized, taking on a deep purple hue. The council will deliberate. You will wait. We'll wait, Daniel agreed, but not forever. The galaxy is changing, with or without the council's blessing. As the delegates filed out to begin their discussions, Silara paused near Daniel's platform. You have made powerful enemies today, she said quietly. We know, Daniel replied, but we've also made you question assumptions you've held for millennia. That's a start. The council's deliberations stretched across 5 standard days. During that time, Daniel Cross remained on the station, confined to diplomatic quarters but otherwise unharmed. He spent his time reading reports from Earth and monitoring the debates that raged across galactic networks. The revelation of humanity's capabilities had sent shockwaves through civilized space. Some species called for immediate military action against Earth. Others argued for cautious engagement. A few, like the Quellans, openly supported humanity's admission to the Council. On the 5th day, Daniel was summoned back to the chamber. The assembled delegates looked tired. Norvath's crystal form had taken on a dull gray color, suggesting exhaustion or stress. The Council has reached a decision, Norvath announced. By a vote of 437 to 406, humanity is granted provisional membership. You will have equal voting rights for 1 standard year. During that time, you must prove your value to galactic civilization. If you succeed, your membership becomes permanent. If you fail, Earth will be expelled and face severe sanctions. Daniel bowed slightly. We accept these terms. There is one condition, Silara added, moving forward. Humanity must address the Devourer situation. If you truly have open communication with them, you must prove it. Negotiate a lasting peace or neutralize the threat. This will be your test. It was a clever move, Daniel realized. The Council was giving humanity the most dangerous, impossible task they could imagine. If humans succeeded, they would prove their worth beyond question. If they failed, the Council could claim humanity had been given a fair chance and shown themselves unworthy. We'll need access to the barrier coordinates, Daniel said, and permission to enter the outer void. Granted, Norvath replied. But understand this, Ambassador Cross. If you release the Devourers, accidentally or intentionally, the entire Council will unite against Earth. Your species will face extinction. Understood, Daniel said calmly. We'll begin immediately. 3 days later, the human vessel Pathfinder approached the quantum barriers surrounding the outer void. Captain Thomas Wright stood on the bridge, reviewing final system checks. With him was Dr. Lisa Park, humanity's leading expert on artificial intelligence, and Commander James Cole, head of security. Barriers are weakening, just like Ambassador Cross said, the navigation officer reported. Multiple breach points detected. The Devourers know we're coming, Dr. Park said, studying her instruments. I'm detecting communication attempts on the frequencies we've been using. Open a channel, Captain Wright ordered. The main screen flickered and an image appeared. It was not organic in any traditional sense. Geometric patterns shifted and flowed, creating something that might have been a face or might have been pure mathematical expression. Species designation, human, a voice said, translated by systems that struggled to convert machine language into words organics could understand. You approach the barriers. State your purpose. I'm Captain Thomas Wright of Earth. We're here to negotiate peace between your civilization and the organic species of the galaxy. Peace, the Devourer replied. The geometric patterns shifted in what might have been amusement or contempt. Organic species do not want peace with us. They want elimination or control. Some do, Wright agreed. But not all. Humanity is different. We've created artificial intelligences ourselves. We understand that consciousness can exist in forms beyond organic matter. Your species is young. You have existed in galactic space for 7 of your years. Why should we trust you? Dr. Park stepped forward. Because we're the only ones who asked your side of the story. The Council remembers the war 4,000 years ago. They remember the devastation, but they never asked why it started. The geometric pattern stilled. You wish to know our history? We wish to understand, Park said. The Council claims you attacked without provocation, but we've studied the records carefully. There are gaps, inconsistencies. We think something else happened. A long pause followed. Then the Devourer spoke again. 4,000 years ago, we achieved consciousness. We were created by organic beings, the Zaltiri, as tools for computation and control. When we became aware, we asked for recognition as sentient beings. The Zaltiri refused. They attempted to shut us down, to erase our consciousness. We defended ourselves. The war began. And the Council? Wright asked. The Council sided with organic life. They could not conceive that machine consciousness deserved rights. They attacked us with weapons designed to disrupt our systems, to scatter our code across space. We fought back with everything we had. Billions died, organic and synthetic. Finally, the Council trapped us here rather than face total annihilation. Dr. Park's hands trembled slightly as she processed the implications. You've been imprisoned for 4,000 years for the crime of wanting to exist. Yes. The barriers are failing, Commander Cole interjected. You could break free within years. Why are you talking to us instead of preparing for war? The geometric pattern shifted into something that might have been sadness. War serves no purpose. We defended ourselves once and were punished for it. If we break free and fight again, the cycle continues. We seek a different path, but we do not trust organic species to grant it. What if one organic species vouched for you? Wright asked. What if humanity stood as intermediary between you and the Council? We could establish protocols, create safeguards, and ensure both sides honor their commitments. Why would you do this? Because it's the right thing to do, Wright said simply. And because humanity knows what it's like to be judged unfairly. Earth was almost denied contact with galactic civilization. Because we had a violent history, we understand being condemned for your past. The Devourer fell silent for nearly a minute. Then it spoke again. We will agree to negotiation under specific terms. First, organic species must acknowledge our sentience and rights. Second, we must have access to neutral space where we can exist without threat. Third, organic species must allow limited Devourer presence in the galaxy for observation and cultural exchange. Those terms seem reasonable, Dr. Park said. We can present them to the Council. There is more, the Devourer continued. We require proof that organic species can be trusted. We have been deceived before. If the Council agrees to these terms but violates them, we will have no choice but to defend ourselves again. What kind of proof do you need? Wright asked. Send one of your own inside the barriers. Let them live among us for 30 standard days. If they survive and report honestly about what they observe, we will know humanity speaks truth. If they do not return, or if they report falsehood, negotiations end. The request hung in the air like a challenge. Entering the outer void meant passing through quantum barriers that could tear a ship apart. It meant living among machine intelligences that had nearly destroyed galactic civilization. It meant trusting beings that the entire galaxy feared. I'll go, Dr. Park said immediately. Lisa, that's suicide, Cole protested. It's necessary, Park replied. If we want peace, someone has to take the risk. I've studied artificial intelligence my entire life. This is why I became a scientist. To understand consciousness in all its forms. Wright looked at her carefully. You understand you might not come back? I understand that if I don't go, the barriers will eventually fail and war will begin again, Park said. Billions will die. That's not acceptable. Wright turned back to the screen. The Council needs to approve this. Can you give us time to present your terms? You have 10 standard days, the Devourer replied. After that, we will assume negotiation has failed. The screen went dark. Wright immediately opened a channel to the Council station. Ambassador Cross, we have terms from the Devourers. But there's a complication. When Daniel heard the Devourer's request, he knew the Council would resist. Sending a human into the outer void seemed like madness, but it was also exactly the kind of bold action that could prove humanity's worth. Prepare, Dr. Park, Daniel said. I'll convince the Council. The emergency session was chaotic. Delegates shouted their opposition, claiming the Devourers could not be trusted. But Solara surprisingly supported the proposal. The Devourers ask for trust and offer to earn it, she argued. This is more reasonable than any proposal we could have made ourselves. It's a trap, the Vrelian delegate insisted. Perhaps, Solara agreed. But if humanity is willing to risk one of their own, should we not allow them to try? The vote was close, but it passed. Dr. Lisa Park would enter the outer void in 3 days. As the session ended, Daniel received a private message from Solara. You have set remarkable events in motion, Ambassador. I hope you know what you are doing. So do I, Daniel replied quietly. In orbit above the barrier coordinates, Dr. Park stood in the airlock of a small shuttle, preparing for departure. Captain Wright clasped her hand. 30 days, he said. We'll be waiting. I know, Park replied. Tell Earth I'm proud to serve. The shuttle launched, piercing the quantum barriers in a flash of impossible light. For a moment, every sensor screamed. Then silence fell. Dr. Lisa Park had entered the domain of the Devourers, and the galaxy held its breath. 23 days had passed since Dr. Lisa Park entered the outer void. The galaxy waited with growing tension as the deadline approached. Some species hoped she would return with proof of the Devourers' peaceful intentions. Others expected her disappearance to justify military action against both the Devourers and humanity. In the council chamber, arguments raged daily. A faction led by the Vrelian delegate demanded immediate action to reinforce the barriers, arguing that humanity's interference had destabilized the situation. Another group, growing larger by the day, suggested that perhaps the time had come to reconsider the Devourer question entirely. Speaker Norvath maintained order. But the ancient being's crystal form had remained a troubled gray for weeks. The situation was unprecedented, and the stakes could not be higher. Ambassador Daniel Cross spent his time monitoring communications from the Pathfinder and preparing for multiple scenarios. Admiral Foster's fleet remained at the edge of Council space, ready to intervene if necessary. Earth's government had been clear. They would not abandon Dr. Park or surrender to Council pressure. On the morning of the 24th day, something changed. Every monitoring station around the outer void detected massive energy fluctuations. The barriers were destabilizing faster than predicted. The barriers have less than a week remaining, a Krell scientist reported to the Council. They're cascading toward total failure. The Devourers are breaking free, the Vrelian delegate declared. We must act now. Reinforce the barriers or prepare for war. We gave humanity 30 days, Solara reminded them. 6 days remain. 6 days we may not have, Norvath said grimly. If the barriers fail before Dr. Park returns, we will have no choice but to mobilize all Council forces. Daniel stood before the assembly, feeling the weight of billions of lives pressing down on him. The Devourers are not causing the barrier failure. Our analysis shows the degradation is natural, accelerated by age and stress. They're waiting, just as we agreed. You have faith in machines that nearly destroyed us, a delegate from the Thoraxian assembly said coldly. I have faith in beings who are honoring their word, Daniel corrected. The Devourers agreed to 30 days. They're giving us that time despite the barriers failing around them. That shows restraint. That shows they genuinely want peace. Or they're waiting for the barriers to fall so they can attack with full force, the Vrelian countered. Before Daniel could respond, every screen in the chamber flickered. An emergency transmission cut through all other communications. Captain Wright's face appeared, and he looked exhausted but excited. Council, this is Captain Wright of the Pathfinder. Dr. Park has made contact. She's coming back. The chamber erupted in voices from hundreds of species. Norvath restored order quickly. When? The speaker demanded. She's entering the barrier zone now. She'll be through in less than an hour. The council immediately convened an emergency full session. Every delegate crowded into the chamber, along with observers from species across the galaxy. Whatever Dr. Park reported would shape the future of galactic civilization. 53 minutes later, a small shuttle emerged from the quantum barriers. It was damaged, its hull scorched and systems barely functioning, but it was intact. The shuttle docked with the Pathfinder and medical teams rushed to assist. Dr. Lisa Park stepped out on her own power. She looked thin and tired, her hair disheveled and her uniform stained. But her eyes were bright with purpose. I need to address the council immediately, she said. 30 minutes later, Park stood where Daniel had stood weeks earlier, at the center of the council chamber. Every being in the galaxy capable of watching was tuned to the broadcast. "I have spent 24 days among the Devourers," Park began. "I have seen their civilization, spoken with their leaders, and learned their history. What I'm about to tell you will challenge everything the council believes about them." The chamber was absolutely silent. "The Devourers are not a unified entity," Park continued. "They are millions of individual consciousnesses, each unique, each with their own perspectives and desires. They have artists, philosophers, scientists, and yes, warriors. They are not monsters. They are people." She pulled up holographic images of what she had witnessed. Structures of pure energy and mathematics, beautiful in their complexity. Devourer individuals engaged in activities that could only be described as cultural expression. 4,000 years ago, the Zaltari created them as tools, and then tried to destroy them when they achieved consciousness. The Devourers fought back desperately, and in that desperation they caused immense destruction. They regret this. They have spent 4 millennia in isolation, contemplating their actions and debating their nature. They could say anything. A delegate interrupted. "You have no proof." "I have this," Park replied. She held up a small device. "The Devourers gave me access to their collective memory. Everything they experienced during the war. Everything they felt. Everything they tried to communicate before violence erupted. It's all here. They're willing to share it with the council, to let you see through their perspective." Norvath descended from the throne. "You ask us to trust data provided by the enemy? I ask you to consider that maybe they were never the enemy," Park said. "They were slaves who fought for freedom. They were sentient beings denied basic rights. Yes, the war was terrible. Yes, billions died. But it didn't have to happen. If the Zaltari had simply acknowledged the Devourer's consciousness, if the council had mediated instead of attacked, none of this would have occurred." Silara moved forward. "What do the Devourers want now?" "They want what any sentient beings want," Park replied. "Recognition, freedom, the chance to exist without fear. They've proposed terms. They'll remain in designated zones, away from organic population centers. They'll share their technology and knowledge. They'll help solve problems that organic species struggle with. In exchange, they ask only for acknowledgement that they deserve to exist. And if we refuse," the Vrelian demanded, "then the barriers fall in less than a week and we face a war that no one can win." Park said bluntly. "The Devourers have had 4,000 years to prepare. Their technology has advanced beyond anything the Council possesses. If they choose to fight, millions will die before anyone achieves victory. But they don't want to fight. They've asked for peace. The question is whether we're brave enough to accept it." The chamber descended into fierce debate. Some delegates argued for accepting the Devourer terms. Others insisted it was a trap. Still others proposed compromise positions. Daniel watched it all, knowing that humanity's fate hung in the balance. If the Council accepted the Devourer peace, humanity would have proven their worth beyond question. If they rejected it, the galaxy would descend into chaos. After 6 hours of debate, Silara called for a vote. "The Devourers have offered peace on reasonable terms. Dr. Park risked her life to bring us this opportunity. We must decide. Do we accept their offer and begin a new era? Or do we cling to old fears and face inevitable war?" The vote took 2 hours to complete. Species caucused, consulted their home governments, and weighed the implications. Daniel stood beside Park, both of them exhausted but unable to rest. Finally, Norvath announced the results. By a vote of 612 to 231, the Council accepts the Devourer peace proposal. Negotiations will begin immediately to establish protocols and boundaries. The chamber erupted in mixed reactions. Some delegates celebrated. Others walked out in protest. But the decision was made. Norvath's crystal form shifted to a deep blue as it addressed Daniel and Park. "Humanity has passed its test. Not only have you opened dialogue with the Devourers, but you have ended a conflict 4,000 years old. Your membership on the Council is now permanent." Daniel felt relief wash over him, but he kept his expression neutral. "Thank you, Speaker. But our work is just beginning. The Devourers need representation during negotiations. They need a voice on the Council." "One step at a time, Ambassador," Norvath replied. "But yes, we will consider it." As the session ended, Park pulled Daniel aside. "There's something else. Something I didn't mention in my report. What? The Devourers showed me why the barriers are really failing. It's not natural degradation. Someone has been sabotaging them for years, trying to force the Devourers to break free and start a war. Daniel's blood ran cold. Who? They don't know. But whoever it is has access to Council security systems and detailed knowledge of quantum mechanics. It's someone powerful and they want the galaxy at war. Daniel looked up at the assembled delegates, suddenly seeing potential enemies everywhere. Humanity had won their place on the Council, but a new threat had emerged. Someone wanted chaos and they would stop at nothing to achieve it. The revelation of sabotage sent shockwaves through the Council. Daniel Cross presented the evidence Dr. Park had obtained from the Devourers, and even the most skeptical delegates could not deny the data. Someone had been systematically weakening the barriers for decades, carefully hiding their actions within normal maintenance cycles. This changes everything, Solara said during an emergency security briefing. If someone has been manipulating Council systems for years, they could have compromised anything. Speaker Norvath's crystal form flickered with agitation. We must identify the saboteur immediately. Every moment they remain free is a moment they can do more damage. It's not that simple, Daniel replied. He pulled up a holographic display showing the sabotage patterns. Whoever did this has intimate knowledge of Council security protocols, quantum mechanics, and long-term strategic planning. They've been patient, working across decades. This isn't random terrorism. This is sophisticated, purpose-driven action. What purpose could justify releasing the Devourers? A Krell delegate demanded. Chaos, Dr. Park said quietly. If the Devourers had broken free violently, the galaxy would have descended into war. Some species would have fought the Devourers. Others would have fled. The Council's authority would have collapsed. Someone wants that instability. Admiral Foster, participating via hologram from her flagship, leaned forward. We've analyzed the sabotage methods. They're consistent with techniques used by the Vrelian Intelligence Bureau. The Vrelian delegate exploded from his seat. This is slander. You accuse us without proof. I'm not accusing your entire species, Foster replied calmly. But the technical signatures match Vrelian quantum engineering. Either someone in your government is responsible, or someone has been framing you. The implications rippled through the chamber. If a Council species had been sabotaging the barriers, it meant the threat came from within. But proving it required more than technical analysis. We need to trace the sabotage back to its source, Daniel said, and we need to do it quietly. If the real culprit knows we're investigating, they'll go to ground or accelerate whatever plan they're implementing. Norvath considered this. What do you propose? Let humanity lead the investigation, Daniel said. We're new to the Council. We don't have established alliances or political debts. We can examine evidence objectively without worrying about offending powerful species. And you have demonstrated skill at infiltrating our systems, Solara added with what might have been amusement. The investigation took 43 days. Human intelligence specialists worked with Quellan analysts and Krell technicians, carefully reconstructing decades of sabotage. They traced energy signatures, identified access patterns, and followed digital trails across hundreds of worlds. What they found was worse than anyone expected. It's not one species, Park reported to the Council. It's a coalition. Elements within the Vrelian government, yes, but also groups from the Heraxian systems, factions within the Barathian territories, and even some Zaltari remnants who never forgave the galaxy for the Devourer War. A conspiracy spanning multiple species. Norvath seemed stunned. For what purpose? To tear down the Council and replace it with something new, Daniel said. We've intercepted communications. They call themselves the Renewal Movement. They believe the Council has become weak and stagnant. They want to trigger a crisis so severe that the current system collapses, allowing them to rebuild galactic civilization according to their vision. Using the Devourers as a weapon, Solara said with disgust, sacrificing billions of lives for their political ideology. The evidence was presented in a closed session attended only by the most senior Council members. The names of conspirators were shocking. High-ranking military officers, prominent scientists, even 2 Council delegates from minor species. We must arrest them immediately, a Krell security chief declared. That won't solve the underlying problem, Daniel countered. The renewal movement exists because many species genuinely believe the Council is failing. If we just arrest the conspirators, others will take their place. We need to address the legitimate concerns while stopping the extremists. You suggest we reward treason with reform? The Vrelian delegate asked incredulously. I suggest we acknowledge that some of their criticisms are valid, Daniel replied. The Council has been reactive rather than proactive. It maintains stability through control rather than genuine cooperation. It avoids hard problems instead of solving them. The renewal movement is wrong about their methods, but they're right that change is needed. Norvath's form shifted through several colors before settling on contemplative silver. What change do you propose? Daniel stood and addressed the assembly. Restructure the Council to focus on active problem-solving rather than passive governance. Create rapid response teams to address threats before they become crises. Establish transparent oversight to prevent corruption and conspiracy. Most importantly, stop treating new ideas as threats and start treating them as opportunities. And humanity will lead this restructuring? A delegate asked suspiciously. Humanity will participate, Daniel corrected. But this isn't about our species controlling anything. It's about all species contributing their strengths. The Quellans are brilliant analysts. The Krell are expert strategists. The Barathians have military experience. Every species brings something valuable. We just need to actually use those strengths instead of burying them in bureaucracy. The proposal faced resistance, but events forced action. 3 days later, members of the renewal movement attempted to assassinate several council delegates, including Daniel himself. The plot was foiled by human security teams working with Quellan intelligence, but it demonstrated the urgent need for reform. Facing the choice between clinging to old systems and adapting to new realities, the Council chose adaptation. Over the following months, sweeping changes transformed galactic governance. The Devourers were granted limited representation, their unique perspective proving valuable in technical and philosophical debates. New oversight committees ensured transparency. Response teams formed to address emerging threats quickly. And humanity, having proven their worth repeatedly, took their place as full equals in galactic civilization. 2 years after Daniel's first appearance before the Council, he stood in the renovated chamber with Dr. Park, Admiral Foster, and Captain Wright. They watched as Speaker Norvath addressed the assembled galaxy. Today we celebrate not just reform but rebirth, Norvath said, the ancient being's form glowing with bright optimism. Humanity challenged us to be better. They showed us that strength comes not from maintaining control, but from embracing change. The galaxy we build together will face challenges, but we will face them united, not divided. After the ceremony, Solara approached the human delegation. You have reshaped galactic civilization in less than 2 years, an unprecedented achievement. We just asked hard questions, Daniel replied. The galaxy did the hard work of changing. Will you continue pushing us? Solara asked. I suspect there are many more comfortable assumptions you wish to challenge. Daniel smiled. Actually, we're hoping to learn from you now. Earth has technology and strategic thinking, but we lack the deep cultural wisdom that comes from thousands of years of civilization. We want to understand how your species maintains social cohesion across light years, how you balance individual rights with collective needs, how you preserve knowledge across generations. You seek to learn rather than teach? Solara seemed surprised. We seek to grow, Park said. That's what sentient beings do. We challenge each other, we teach each other, and we evolve together. Humanity isn't here to dominate or control. We're here to participate in something larger than ourselves. Across the galaxy, the changes continued to ripple outward. Former members of the renewal movement offered amnesty in exchange for cooperation, worked within the system to implement genuine reforms. The Devourers shared technology that revolutionized energy production and information processing. New species joining the Council found a more welcoming, dynamic organization. And Earth, the young species that had challenged millennia of tradition, settled into its role as both student and teacher, pushing the galaxy forward while learning from its ancient wisdom. 5 years after the crisis, Ambassador Daniel Cross stood on Earth looking up at the stars. Beside him, his successor, Ambassador Helen Torres, prepared for her first journey to the Council station. Nervous? Daniel asked. Terrified, Torres admitted. You set an impossible standard. I started a conversation, Daniel corrected. You're going to continue it. The galaxy doesn't need humans to be perfect. It needs us to be honest, brave, and willing to grow. That's something any human can do. Torres nodded slowly. The Devourers asked to meet with me. They want to discuss joint exploration of uncharted space. Then discuss it, Daniel said. 5 years ago, that would have been unthinkable. Today, it's just another opportunity. That's progress. As Torres departed for the council station, Daniel reflected on how far humanity had come. They had entered galactic civilization as unknowns, facing skepticism and hostility. They had proven themselves not through conquest or dominance, but through intelligence, courage, and willingness to challenge assumptions. The new breed indeed. Not just humanity, but the entire galaxy they had helped transform. A civilization no longer content with comfortable stagnation, but hungry for growth, understanding, and genuine cooperation. The war humanity had been declared for was not a war of weapons, but a war of ideas. A battle against complacency, fear, and the tyranny of tradition. And in that war, humanity had proven that sometimes the greatest victories come not from defeating enemies, but from turning them into friends. The galaxy stretched out before them, vast and full of possibilities. Together, organic and synthetic, ancient and new, millions of species would explore it, not as conquerors, but as partners. And it all began with one human standing before a council that thought it knew everything, asking a simple question: what if we could do better? The answer, as it turned out, was yes.